Good evening, everyone. What an intense game. And thank you again to Logitech G and Unite Student for making this all possible, because over the past few weeks, we have seen some absolutely insane games of CS. And that last one was no different, as now we have one more game remaining for the split. It's going to be back six versus Manchester Hive. Manchester Hive just coming off a win against Kebab Rush A. Currently 5 wins and 5 losses for each team. Another very equally balanced match. Any thoughts going into this, Protalis?
It is going to be potentially one of the closest matches that we have seen so far, I believe. It's a potentially high-stakes one, as well as one of the last matches of our group stages before the playoffs begin in the upcoming week. So both teams are going to be fighting competitively for this one. You know, it really could go either way at the end of this. But in terms of early predictions, I think I might just have to give it out to the back six squad, just in terms of the level of individual players that they're bringing to the server, edging out the scoreline statistically compared to some of the Manchester Hive players.
Yeah, and I gotta say as well, it feels like back six, it feels like they don't just have one strong fragger, it feels like the entire team is pulling the weight. But obviously in CS, you always kind of have that one player who frags out a little bit heavier. Who for me has to be Trill right now. 184 kills in just, that was in 9 games. I haven't got the updated stats for last game, but that was absolutely huge for him. I'm so excited to see how he ends up popping off with a 1.09 KD, but 120 ADR. It shows he is putting out that damage for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's definitely going to be needed heading into this matchup. We saw in the previous matchup that we saw against Barth A and the Derby Gods that Rico was fairly quiet for Barth A at the start of the map. But once he started turning up with that AWP and started fragging towards the latter stages of the map, Barth A looked totally dominant from that perspective. And so we can really see just how well a warmed-up individual player can fit into a team roster and potentially make things work for them. We saw that from the Derby Gods' perspective, what perhaps they potentially needed in that matchup was an individual player who could start to find those entry frags and start to take control of the map for them. And both squads are going to need to hope that their individuals turn up in this last map of the day.
Indeed. And tonight, I think it's a very interesting one because we have two very balanced teams. And I think it's going to come heavily down to the map that gets picked. I do have to point out, both of these teams appear to be very strong on Inferno, with back six playing 4 Inferno games so far. Manchester Hive only playing 2, but at least they've shown that they are capable on that map. Would it surprise you to potentially see an Inferno map coming out from these teams? Because they both appear to be pretty strong on it.
Honestly, that's where I was expecting this best of one veto to go, all things considered anyway. When I was looking through some of those statistics, it looks like both teams prefer to take it onto an Inferno in a best of one format. And whilst that potentially has been the case against some of the squads they have played against previously, I wonder whether or not, as you mentioned, there might be a little bit of veering away from it as one team is more comfortable on it, or rather has played more on it in this Varsity tournament than the other. So I'm wondering, there's going to be a toss-up in my mind whether it's both teams end up on Inferno because they are both relatively comfortable there, or it's that both of these teams were just trying to take away their opponents from some of their better maps and force them onto something like an Inferno. But I definitely would expect it to enter the latter stages of the veto here, and then potentially, if it does get taken out, only be removed in that last phase.
It would not surprise me because, when you see teams playing maps a lot, it means that, they're not intent on banning it. And when you see it coming out from both teams, I'd be surprised if it does get banned early. However, there is also that thought process of, look, what if these teams have thought, hey, this team has played, if Manchester Hive are thinking, hey, back six have played 4 games of Inferno, they're currently 5-5. Maybe we just ban that out of the map pool early and go for a map that they haven't played as much of, because it feels like back six, even though they have played a lot of games, they haven't got a super wide map pool that we've seen so far in the Varsity tournament. And maybe some of these maps that haven't been played as much, we might see come in at the last second just to try and catch teams off guard.
I do have to agree with you on that one. With the back six squad, looking at their statistics, they appear to be a team that is a collection of individuals rather than a cohesive team unit, if that makes sense, right? It's different individual players popping off in their different matches and sort of taking it in turns at carrying the team and providing the fragging where necessary. And that could potentially be a very dangerous sign, because it can be a potential indicator that a team's map pool is not as deep as you would like it to be. As traditionally, you would have your strong fraggers be your best players on the side because you give them the best positions across the map pool, and they should be fairly consistent at fragging throughout the map pool as you're drilled in their defensive or offensive positions in either part of your setup. So that definitely could be a factor that might neuter some of the individuals from back six if they are taken away from a map like Inferno, which they could have become slightly too over-reliant on in this new Varsity season. They don't want to get caught in unfamiliar territory in this best of one when it is so important to making those playoff standings.
And you mentioned the best of one being a huge part of it, which is why we see teams that are often, as you mentioned, a collection of individuals play extremely well in this best of one style, where they're just able to kind of hit the team with an absolutely explosive game, where they just kind of catch them off guard, and then the team not having to adapt over 2 more games, which I think is going to be interesting going into the later splits to see exactly how these teams are going to adapt to a best of 3, play style. For anyone who isn't aware, the top 8 teams from Varsity are going to be moving over to the Varsity playoffs, whereas the bottom 4 will be moving over towards the Spring Prize playoffs. If you guys do want to get involved with that with your own team, make sure to head over to the Newell, sign up your squad, sign up your university, get a team in. If you think that you can play at the top level of university esports, go ahead. And remember, it's not just limited to Counter-Strike. There are a bunch of games pretty much every day. The Newell it has a different event on.
And that's another opportunity that's provided through the renewed format, is that you do have that potential to play against Varsity caliber teams, or perhaps graduate into Varsity, even if you're not necessarily the most technically proficiently skilled team yourselves. The way that the qualification systems have been done and the seeding through the different Newell tournaments now, I feel, provides a more cohesive route to sort of work your way up into that Varsity segment. And let's not forget some of the incredible prizes that you do play for in Varsity with the VIP esports event tickets. Obviously, COVID permitted, whenever that is able to resume, you will have, an incredible opportunity to visit an esports event and have that wonderful experience. And now I feel with the new qualification systems, I genuinely feel that every team does have that opportunity now. Starting as a fresher, for example, if it's your first year in uni, you pick up a pug for your first Newell split. There are definitely ways to work your way up through those summer prize playoffs and try and find your way then into Varsity and get yourself spots there later on. So I just think if there was ever a time to sign up to university esports, there would be no better time than now.
Yeah, and a reminder as well that just because you don't have, friends who play CSGO or that play your game at your university, if you go onto the Newell, you can actually filter by university. You can check out your esports society's website, their Discord, where they all get together, and that is how you can go about making a squad. So I think it would be an awesome experience to see some new faces in, going into the Spring Opens to potentially qualify for the Spring Prize playoffs. But enough talking about how to get involved with the Newell. Let's talk about the teams that are involved already. Manchester Hive, a team we haven't spoken about too much tonight. We've seen a couple of their games over the past weeks, and it feels like they're very hit or miss when it comes to performances. 5 wins, 5 losses. Currently very equally balanced right now. Seabass currently their top fragger with 133 kills, but 145 deaths in 8 games. I think it shows that, sure, even though he's only got a 0.92 KD, that the team are at least working as a unit to play for those trades, and it isn't all down to this one player having an absolute carry-away performance that is constantly clutching up. It shows that it is a team that are playing together, not just a collection of individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some serious problems that can arise that affect your team cohesion if you do have one player who is sort of carrying the team in every match, because this tends to happen more often in the matches that don't go your way. If you have a star player sort of carrying the squad, they might decide that because their individual performances are the only highlight of the team, maybe the team need to be listening to more of their tactical input. They want to be making more of the in-game decisions. They want to choose which bomb sites we're attacking, what we're doing in the mid-round situation, for example. And it could lead to a scenario where your star fraggers start to second guess your in-game leader. And if you end up in an in-game position where that starts to happen, that's really where you see the communication start to break down, and you can sort of see those snowball effects that you see in Counter-Strike, where teams really start to dominate a match momentum-wise, and the team falling behind really seems to fall out of it completely. So I definitely think that having a cohesive team unit is something that just provides so much value for you. Even just having a clearly defined structure where you have somebody like your team captain, for example, who's in charge doing the main round calls, but then if things start going round in the mid round, for example, you have an early plan is to attack the A bomb site, but you lose 2 players on contact, and now you're in a 3v5, and you need something to happen in the mid-round situation to make it work. If you're a team that has a structure, has a designated mid-round caller as well, and has those contingency options for where things start to go wrong, that's where you're going to be a more successful Counter-Strike team in building that cohesive team unit.
And I have to say as well, it feels like, a lot of teams, they do heavily rely on one player. And I think it shows why the Mule is such an important, part of the CSGO ecosystem to an extent, because you have teams that come in here for their first time, they have 1 or 2 star fraggers, and then they realize, hey, there are players that are just as good as us out there. It's kind of like playing on those third-party matchmaking services at the very highest level, and seeing, hey, maybe we're not as good as we thought. And it gives teams the opportunity to come back and improve going into the future splits. And I think that's going to be a big thing that the teams that maybe didn't make it into the top 8 are going to be able to take as a positive from this, because it is a case of, hey, sure, we had a good team structure, but maybe as a squad, we just need to work a bit harder, bring ourselves up overall, as opposed to just relying on 1 or 2 key players and having an IGL that maybe isn't able to perform, clutch out, and frag in the way that these top fraggers currently are.
Absolutely, and there's definitely space within Counter-Strike rosters at this level for players who don't have the best aim in the world. The role of a supportive role player in Counter-Strike is slightly different to something in a MOBA. You don't necessarily have a set of abilities that make you designed to support the other players on your team, but by playing certain positions where maybe it's more difficult to get kills from, but you have access to more sound information, by focusing on learning your utility lineups and ensuring that you're always deploying the correct flashbangs and the correct smokes and things like that, you can create an immense amount of value for your team, even if your aim isn't that good, just by being a supportive player to a star fragger. Throw the flashbangs when your star player needs them, utilize that correct utility at the right times, and you can provide a lot of value for your team that goes past just the flashy headshots.
I feel like that's such a big thing with CSGO as well that people don't really talk about enough, is the fact that, at the end of the day, if you're putting the hours in and you're trying to learn the game, you're learning all these smoke lines up, you're learning about different ways to play the map, it doesn't all come down to the aim. But one thing it does come down to in an event like this has to be the map that things end up on. As we hop over into the veto now, we'll see exactly how things are looking. I'm excited to see which teams ban what and which map we're actually going to end up on here.
Yeah, this should be a fairly interesting veto. Obviously, both sides have been favoring Inferno quite heavily in their previous weeks of this tournament. And as a result, it could be a potential exciting sort of last phase ban to see if they try and take that one away from each other. But Vertigo being removed early, we spoke about it before the last match. It's just a map that some teams don't enjoy playing on at all, preference-wise. It's teams... on certain occasions, teams like to make sure it's removed from that map pool. Mirage going away as well next as one of the more puggy style maps. I'd expect to see Dust 2 come through at some point as a ban. Overpass being removed starts to indicate that these are the more tactical maps being filtered out now. With Nuke falling away, I'd expect Train to fall by the wayside now too, and then it be a decider between Dust 2 and Inferno at the end. But actually, it's Inferno that gets banned out third, and now it could either be Dust 2 or Train, which is sort of either end of the map pool in terms of tactics versus pluggy playstyle as to what we end up on.
I should point out as well, neither of these teams have played on Train yet in the Varsity League. However, they have both played one game on Dust 2. So it's going to be interesting seeing what exactly they feel more comfortable with. Maybe expecting another squad to actually ban Inferno instead, but never mind, because it is going to be Dust getting banned. Over to Train, neither teams do have, experience in the Varsity League on Train. I'm intrigued to see how this ends up unfolding now, and seeing how their playstyles do end up adapting to this.
There should be a huge test for both squads' map haul here. Train is a map that can have an incredible amount of tactical depth at the top level. We spoke previously about the in-game leadership meta on that map being predicated on intelligently drawing out your opponent's utility, making sure you have a keen awareness of their positioning, and also having the ability to adapt in late round scenarios potentially and change your game plan as well. Train is a map that can have a lot of tactical depth, but it's also a map that has quick routes into bomb sites, which means if you're a T side and you start tilting, those fast rush calls can come through by teams that aren't quite tactically versed in the map. And that's really where the CTs can just drop off early Molotovs and destroy you with utility if you try and rush the bomb sites there. So that has to be something the T sides are trying to avoid heading into our map here.
A big thing I like about Train as well is how much that AWP can turn the tide of the game, because I feel like whenever we see like a big AWP clip, it's on a map like Train or even Overpass to a certain extent with those really long range sight lines, the way, players can just pop out one by one and the AWP is just there popping them off. So I'm excited to see if we get any big kills coming out tonight, any big clips, because they are always just so exciting to watch, especially on a map like Train.
Absolutely. Train is one of these maps as well where you have to be an intelligent AWPer. It leans into more of Device's play style, where if you're on the CT side, you take one shot, hit or miss, you fall back to your next angle. Hold up on this one, wait for the Ts to arrive, take your shot, fall back to the next defensive angle. Because on the T side of things, if you're attacking a CT-sided AWPer, a lot of the angles that the AWPs can hold do have open flanking angles potentially, right? If they're holding on top of the Train aggressively, watching into T-con, a T dropping down into drop room might be able to spot you out. They could flank you from hell potentially in scenarios like that with these AWPs. So there are a lot of positions that you can play with the AWP on Train where having good positional awareness is going to be vital to your own survival on the CT side. And as both squads start to get into things here, it's a lot of utility early on for the back six, which suggests they're thinking about the A-bomb side.
Before we get in, big thank you to Unite students and Logitech G for making all of this possible, as Devo, one of those players we saw a couple weeks ago popping off, will be able to get the first kill of the game, but he's quickly traded out as Konzor takes down Kavona in return. Chris hopping up onto the Train will be able to get eyes over on towards the planter, but it's a little bit too late as the shot actually landed just before he goes in towards drop room. Konzor getting caught with the headshot, so now Manchester Hive, they're looking to try and get the retake on towards this. Nico takes down one, Seabass goes down as well. Chris takes down Nico and is down to a 1v1 at this point. Will decide to try and back off, baits out the defuse, knows the player is going to try and peek out. He's playing it slow. Trill, oh no, he goes for the peek. Chris isn't able to hit the shot that he needed to. Now it's a case of Chris just giving him the runaround, but Trill, no! He whiffs the shot, but the bomb's going to be down. There's no way of getting it defused. And somehow Hive, after that chase down, Chris going for the kill, is going to be back six that win our pistol round. And what a way to start it, especially considering that Manchester Hive, they won the knife round. They got the CT side pick. It's going to be interesting to see how Manchester Hive try and adjust for this here.
Crazy pistol round there that fell by the wayside at just the last moment. They go for the full investment off the back. Double scout isn't something you see too often, but you made the point in the last map, if you get the scouts to do the damage, the Deagles can clean up rather nicely in the late round scenarios. That's what Manchester Hive are hoping will go their way, but it's Pinhead Larry who's going to be the first point of contact onto Corona. He's actually going to get re-pushed by Devo Dusol as well, and a nice double entry going the way of the T side should create space for them to move into the A bomb site here. They're going to slow it down a little bit though and push out after the back for some more utility.
I almost feel like, you know, winning the pistol round on the T side is even harder for the opposing team than it is when you win on the CT side, because it puts them in a really rough position as to what exactly they need to buy here. As we see the force come out here from Manchester Hive, they're going to be losing yet another player. And now with only 2 players up, they've expended a lot of utility, but at what cost? As now they do try to go for the plant. Party going to be getting a little bit aggressive through the smoke, but Consor just holding this. He knows that there's likely going to be a player holding this, judging from the shots that came out earlier. Party goes for the peek, but the headshot lands down on towards Consor. This could be big here, but it's still a 2 versus 3. And as Party gets taken down to 6 HP, it's looking very, very rough for Manchester Hive as he decides to back off. And it looks like potentially Hive are just going to go for a bit of a save here.
Yeah, indeed. The likelihood that they're going to be able to win this round with a scout and a 6 HP Deagle on the retake is virtually nothing. And Parney, if he can stay alive with his head armor, is going to have 100 points of health to back him up, taking fights rather than the 6 he has now if he just waits until that next round. Unfortunately for Consor, he's not able to find a kill in that scenario. He's playing slightly aggressively because he has the Mac 10 and he wants the extra cash for that SMG kill, but the Mac 10's damage against armor really is pitiful, and that was just evidenced in the round prior. He's going to pick another SMG up, though, as they know the Manchester Hive economy can't have any serious resistance to boot, and back 6, they're just going to be looking to try and get through this round without losing as many players as they can.
Smokes coming out here from back 6 as they do set up a bit of an execute, and I think that Train is one of those maps where if you know just a couple smokes, they can be so powerful, almost more powerful than they can be on a lot of other maps. As the bomb going to be going down before any players do. Party lands the headshot on towards Pinhead. Larry will be able to take him out. Aspect with a nice little jiggle peek will bait out the shot. He has the info over on towards Party, but not going to be taking the shots just yet. Has to play it slowly. Right now, it's just a case of slowing down Manchester Hive, denying them the push as much as possible, as Consor will be able to take down Pomona on the push. Out goes the wide peek from Aspect, tries to go for the up peek, but never mind, because Nico is there to take down one more. Trill takes down Chris, as now Devo just left standing with a P250, no HP. It's looking rough here for Manchester Hive, as now back 6, they have been able to pick up their first round of the game. The question is, how do things come into them actually carrying this through to, you know, get some serious rounds on the board?
Well, they have a bit of an awkward decision to make here in round number 4. They got a couple of Galil save forward from the last round, which are not one-shot headshot weapons, but at the same time, you don't necessarily want to be dumping the 2.7k into another AK, because the likelihood that you get a kill with that weapon is still fairly high. Consor start things off beautifully with an opening AWP shot for the T's. And look how empty the Manchester Hive cache is. They need to win this round, and they needed to do it fairly cleanly too. They just don't have any cash reserves to work with on the CG side.
Manchester Hive now playing it very, very carefully, holding on towards this as Chris watching out. The flashbang will land down, but it doesn't quite connect in the way that Trill was hoping right here. As Devo just holding the angle, ready for a peek. Hive realized now they've used a lot of economy to be able to buy up. It's a case of them just playing it slowly and holding these angles, making sure not to waste a single dollar at this point, because zero money in the bank pretty much. It is not looking ideal as Larry goes for the peek. He's moving over towards E-Box, but Devo is probably aware there's going to be a play here, as now Seabat, he preps the flashbang, catches out any players that were on the site, but by this point the flash is gone. Trill lands the headshot over on towards Devo, as Consor going to be going for the plant. Seabat, he's spraying through the smoke, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, as Chris hops up on top, tries to land something, but nothing quite connecting. As back 6, they stay as a 5-man strong. Manchester High, players all on low HP, but Trill goes down to Chris now. At least they're going to pick up an opening kill out of this, but Chris, he's just playing so carefully. The no-scope comes out on towards Pinhead. Larry waiting for Nico. He knows the position he's in. It's just a matter of playing it slow, and I think Manchester Hive have realized this round is just out of their grasp. Now it's just a case of holding onto these weapons and trying to get a couple exit frags.
Very good job of them to be able to hold on to the majority of those rifles, and Chris gets very lucky with that no-scope kill, to be honest with you. He scoped up tight on the angle, and he can actually see in the bottom of his scope the shadow of the close-range player, but he is not looking for it. So he unscopes to move to advance, gives away the sound cue. That's when the T peeks into him, but that crisp aim does end up bailing him out of that situation and letting him get away with a no-scope kill. That could have been far, far messier for Manchester Hive at the end of the round. They still only get out with 2 rifles, so it's not going to be an ideal scenario here in round number 5 for them, but it looks like they want to compete for this one. A scout in the hands of Chris, a little bit of body armor, but Corona and Devo Dusol, they want to stay over $2,500 in the bank. There's an idea of economic preservation being thought of by the Manchester Hive squad, and they should be able to get a full buyout in this next round. It's only Seabass who's going to be hurting a little bit, but it's only utility that would have to be compromised for him.
Chris, he's holding to try and catch one out from back 6, but that scout, you have to land the headshots. They have to be so big in terms of the shots. A nice little Molotov coming out from Aspect there to try and take out Kavona. Yep. And yeah, that's unfortunate. Tries to play the corner in the hopes that he survives, but the Molotov spreads, down he goes. So opening kill out on towards Hive, and there's going to be a gun denied as well. Parney holding single-handedly on B site with Seabass. Sorry, Chris playing a little bit further back. Konzor, he preps the smoke, and here comes the execute. It's looking like it's going to land towards B as the peek comes out from Trill. That's going to give a little bit of information away. I know Party's going to be holding this as Nico gets the headshot over on towards Seabass. Devo quickly connecting with the Deagle. Konzor punishes him for it. However, with the AUE, there's now Trill getting caught out low.
Ooh.
Chris trying to land something through the smoke. It does work out. Down goes Nico. Tree going to be low HP as well as the actually headshot coming out from Arnie here. Trill making a final stand, trying to connect with something through the smoke. Konzor has to come out big here to try and clean up these 2 final players as Trill goes down. It's just a case of him trying to get a couple kills to secure this 4 back 6 because they don't want Manchester Hive to get the first round on the board, but that's going to be the case anyway.
It was a perfect start to the round from back 6 as well. Excellent Molotov deployment to find themselves a free opening kill, and then they maintain the man advantage when they push into the A bomb site. But unfortunately, they start to play too isolated and too individually. Aspect makes a critical mistake by moving too far forward and getting caught by the Molotov. It gives away the sound cue to the player on the train, and then he tries to back away, switch to a smoke grenade, but they've hunted him down by that point in time. And then they're able to just isolate one-on-one engagements against the T's in order to retake. They needed the back 6 there to set up in positions where if one man goes down, there's a second player who can trade out and get the refrag. Unfortunately, they were too isolated in their post-plant setup, and that allowed some individual heroics from Chris, yet again, to this time win Manchester Hive their first round.
So they won a round. Now it's a case of holding on to it. They've got themselves some decent weaponry, some decent utility. They're on the CT side, so it really is just a case of being kind of sparing with that utility until the last possible second. As we see Kavona now throwing a very late smoke, will decide to rotate over towards the B-bomb site, maybe expecting players to be over there as the smoke comes out from the T side to block off the lines of sight. However, it looks like it's going to be a bit of a fake here as back 6 actually looking to try and post up a couple more smokes over on towards A. Beautifully lined up, by the way. I really respect the fact that these players spend just so much time working on these, as Konzor going to be able to land one on towards Chris now with the support of Pinhead Larry. A nice flashbang coming out. And right now, it's just a case of back six peeking slowly but carefully, taking these engagements one by one, but that one doesn't work out for Nico as he gets taken out by Seabass. Barney takes down Pinhead Larry's aspect while Flash takes down Kavona. Barney holding the side angle, but Consor takes down Seabass. Barney, he needs to land a couple more shots now. There's him and Devo with the two remaining players. He will be able to do it. Devo takes down another, and there it is. Back six going to be losing another round. So Manchester Hive, they picked up one, they picked up the second. Now it's a case of seeing how far they can really close this gap.
Indeed, the back six there made their way onto the bomb site, but they used up too much of their utility in the early round scenario. That meant that when they were trying to commit to the bomb plant, all they had was a smoke, I think a single flashbang and Molotov to work with, and most of those had already been committed to CT positions. That allowed Pani so much space to maneuver there in connector. Normally that's an angle that's smoked or Molotoved off, so he has no effectiveness in the retake scenario, but in that last round, because there's no utility, you can just run around the train and clean up a double.
Devo with a nice kill over on towards Nico, but Trill quickly returned in the fire, but never mind, because Barney comes in with the headshot supported by Seabass as he finishes off the job. Manchester Hive, they're at a one-round deficit, but now back six, they've got themselves some AKs, but it doesn't look like the full team are going to be able to loot up. Never mind, they are going to be able to get themselves some decent weaponry going in towards this, so it's a case of can back six maybe try and reset Manchester Hive a little and slow them down, or will Manchester Hive be able to use this CT side to start closing the gap and potentially take a lead here?
Chris is on the AWP and he's been hitting shots with the Scouts and the AUGs so far. Let's see if it will correspond to his effectiveness on the big green gun. That's a great smoke from Manchester Hive to have deployed to. It really denies so much map control towards Ivy for the T side, but losing a man on the A site is probably going to force Devo Dusol back now and sacrifice the map control that he fought so hard to earn at the start of the round. They've drawn in, it looks like, an extra 2 players to defend the A bomb site now, so the back 6, if they probe B properly, could have a free site to try and plant in.
I gotta say, I absolutely love that drop that back 6 do down the ladder where they hop a player on top of each other. It's not something that you see too often, but it feels like back 6 bust it out all the time. And I think it was like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, they were able to actually catch a player off guard by that. So it really shows good team coordination coming out for them, as now the smokes will start to land over towards B site. Party realizes this, and the CT side are going to be forced to make a bit of a rotate over towards this, but I don't think they realize that Nico is ready with the smokes as well. Aspect going to be going for the peak, trying to clear out that bomb train. Knows that Party's over here somewhere as he does open up with a couple shots. Seabass landing the headshot over on towards Pinhead Larry. Trill watching out over towards the site, as now there's a bit of confusion over on the side of Manchester Hive, but they will be able to take the round anyway, because it looked for a second like back 6 were going to be able to catch them off guard with that fake attack over on towards B, but Manchester Hive, they held their nerve and they absolutely cleaned up right there.
They held on to a vital Molotov as well. Once they deployed that on the B bomb site, no more back 6 players came out from the upper angle on top of the rafters. So the Manchester Hive team know at that point, we've dumped the Molotov down the ramp. Nobody else is coming onto the B site. This is probably just a fake. Otherwise, they'd be committing via both angles. So we can pretty safely assume this is going to be a hit on the A bomb site. They read it perfectly, and they read the start of this round perfectly as well, getting very aggressive when they don't have to with these rivals, stealing the opening kills. This could be Manchester Hive really starting to come into their own on train now, as even these HE grenades are tearing the back 6 apart.
Kavona, nasty little 2K. Nico going to be the final player left up. Lands a nasty 1D though over on towards Kavona, but now it's just the chance for Manchester Hive as a 4-man to stay up, hold these angles. The up shot actually missing. Nico lands one on towards Seabass. Beautifully done. He pops up top, but the AWP, it's just too powerful when those shots land. Chris cleans him up. And there we go. Manchester Hive, they've taken the lead, and I mean, back 6, they're going to be able to get themselves an AWP, but if this round doesn't go how they plan and they're not able to pick it up, it is going to cause them some serious trouble and allow Manchester Hive to potentially get a big lead over them.
Absolutely. As soon as Manchester Hive's economy has started to build in this map of Train, they have looked like formidable opponents indeed. The early Molotovs to deny aggression out of T-Con is fairly well read from Manchester Hive, as there are players posted up seemingly interested in a contact A play. Everyone from the back six squad is waiting to attack this A bomb site now, and Chris is very lucky to escape that engagement with his life.
Console with a really beautiful angle, but sometimes those flicks, they aren't quite fast enough. Pinhead Larry going to be the first player going down, as Kavona playing a really aggressive angle here for Manchester Hive. Now, the problem is, if you're back six, you've tried the super aggressive approach. That worked the first few rounds. But then Manchester Hive, they started to catch on to it. They started putting players in more aggressive positions. Now they're trying this slow and steady approach. I'm not sure whether that's faring them any better. Console, he's going to be going for the peak. Expects the player over in the corner, so down goes Kavona. Hive should be aware of this, getting ready for the reposition. But unfortunately, Chris not quite able to land the shot that he was hoping for now. As Hive, they're aware that back six, it wouldn't be the first time they faked an attack on a site to be able to go and take another. And it looks like now they're going to be doing the same. The smokes come out over towards me. Now for opportunity to make a push. Freeze coming out from Seabass. He takes down one with the headshot, does some damage on towards Nico. And Aspect as well, but the nade lands on towards Aspect. Now it's down to a 2 versus 4. Consor trying to get aggressive through the smoke with the AWP. Doesn't want to give anything away. Nico takes down Party as Consor. No! He whiffs the shot at the most unfortunate time. Seabass takes down Nico. Now Consor's the only one left standing, but the headshot connects. Manchester Hive, they very easily get the defuse there. And now it's just a case of how far can Hive keep this momentum going to secure themselves the lead for this half.
Well, I believe it was Manchester Hive who had the choice to take us to Dust 2 or Train as this final map, and it looks like they've made the right decision. Despite, you know, a very quick pistol round play from the back six, giving themselves an early round and then them being able to convert the following 3 off the back of those weapon advantages. Tactically, they look a little bit outclassed by the Manchester Hive squad as this half has progressed. The back six just sort of congregate outside the entrances to the bomb sites, wait for an explosive entrance, but are struggling to maintain control of the bomb site in retake scenarios. And now the double AWPs are up for the CT side. This just gets more and more difficult for the back six squad.
Nasty little flick coming out there from Devo, as now he's going to be moving back a little over towards Ivy. Trill is still there, so it's not impossible for him to connect with another. It's just looking less and less likely, as now Trill just playing slow. He's going to be looking to try and catch him on the rotate, as Chris will get caught with a couple shots. Smoke lands down, but so does the Molotov. He's playing the very edge of it, but that smoke not going to be enough in terms of safety from stopping the spread of the Molotov. Seabass moving over towards Ivy. Goes to Trill's over here somewhere. The flashbang comes out, but it's in the worst possible time as Barney going to be able to take down one. Trill takes down two in return. Nico with Barney down. Trill's the final player left standing, however, but not for much longer, as Manchester Hive now, it's 7-4, and coming into the start of this game after them losing the pistol round, it wasn't looking great, but they have got the momentum and they are taking it away. The question is, can they secure the final couple rounds of the half?
The remainder of this match is going to be very interesting indeed, because the CT side of Train is absolutely wonderful to play on when you have all of the money available. The difficult part of it is supposed to be managing your economy, but I haven't have to worry about cash virtually this whole half. Barney and Seabass defending the B bomb side. Barney continuing to frag out as Pinhead Larry needs to try and help defend Aspect within the bomb site. There should be a plant committed to here, but a 3-on-2 retake. Pinhead Larry can't land the opening shot. Aspect, I think this is too much to ask of him here.
You never know, as Kavona will be sticking that defuse. Aspect goes for the peak. Never mind. Through the smoke, it doesn't work out. Manchester Hive, they clean up the round, and Aspect not going to be going down. At least he saves himself the deagle. There's now back six. They're going to be looking to try and buy in this situation. In terms of economy, it's not looking terrible. They should be able to buy after this round, but if they're not able to secure something going in towards the end of the half, it's going to be rough for them. The real question is, though, however, can Hive pick up the pistol round and throw back six on the back foot coming into the second half, like back six did in the first? It's now opening shots coming out. Nothing really much happening, as it appears that back six can be playing a little slower than usual.
They are indeed. That's potentially insight into their team mentality, as they've suffered 8 consecutive round losses. They're now a bit tentative to aggress into these angles. Kavona pushing T-Con. He's a man who's been aggressively in multiple rounds prior. That flash should inform them to his presence, but unfortunately, Nico can't stand up to it. Konzor with the AWP has to defend this bomb here. If he goes down, this T round is all but over. Kawona finds the bomb through the smoke. However, the smoke means he doesn't know he's actually dropped the bomb, it looks like. A T should be able to come up and recover in the form of Trill, but it's another messy round for the back 6.
Pinhead Larry, he does take down Kavona, so it is going to allow the T's to hopefully get themselves that bomb, but Zebas, he's caught out in the open with a flashbang. It just shows how saving that utility into the late round can be so big. So now 2 AWP standing from Manchester Hive, make it 1. There's Chris going to be going down. It's Devo and Party. Party rocking the M4. There's now the final player left up. Devo gets caught with the headshot. Chill going to be able to pick up the kill here. So now the back 6 have themselves some weapons. They need to try and secure the rest of this round, which appears to be the case as Aspect gets the kill on towards Party. They're going to get that bonus from planting the bomb. Now it's just a case of back 6. Can they at least secure, 1 or 2 more rounds to be able to close that gap and kind of balance things out going into the second half?
That's a huge misplay from Manchester Hive there. They were playing way too individually to find success in that round. Kavona goes aggressive in T-Con, finds 2 kills and drops the bomb. That should be a victory from the CT side, but they let the Ts take one-on-one engagement and lose the round as a result. This time they're playing as more of a unit, but the Ts are still coming through with the frags as Konzor's AWP finds 2 victims. Pinhead Larry lines them both up and leaves Parney with 1 HP and a dream. 3 Ts to find. He can't find the first, and it's 1 round necessary for the back 6 to try and claw this back into a fairly equal 8-7 half.
Now, coming into the CT side with 7 rounds would be a huge confidence boost for back 6 here. The question is, can the same be said for Manchester Hive? As they're going to be on that T side, it can be so hard to play, but if teams are able to coordinate together, it can be so useful. There's Parney already taking a bit of damage here. Kavona tries to go for the peak, but Pinhead Larry landing the headshot. Chris going to be able to take down 1. He has the info, knows there's going to be another one there. Down goes Pinhead Larry. Aspect going down before him. The nade does land. It does a little bit of damage, but not quite enough to be able to take down Trill, as now he's going for the repeat on towards Ivy. Nothing quite landed. 3 players still standing. 4 back 6 here as the smokes will come out, allowing them to make the push. It's going to cut off Devo's angle, but he's got a nice little corner of the smoke, which is still visible. Now it's just a case of slowing down, trying to catch these players off guard, but it appears that Manchester Hive, it almost seems like they're prepared for a fake here, as we've seen back 6 pull this off so many times before. Especially with that smoke over towards B. It is going to make things rough, but Konzor is going to get ready to get aggressive with the AWP here. He knows roughly where Devil Du Sol is going to be. It's just a case of playing it ever so slowly and not wanting to give anything away, but as the smoke comes out, this should be enough info for Devil to be able to call it out to the rest of the squad. Now is the time for Manchester Hive to start this rotate. The question is it going to be too little too late? Is Trill going to be holding the side angle? Devo opens up. Chris watching out here over towards this. There's all 3 players from back 6 going to be ready to make the peak. The headshot lands down, followed by a second. Konzor, the final player left up. He's got himself the AWP, but it's not going to be enough to land the shots as Devo cleans it up. Manchester Hive, they win the round and the half. The real question now, however, is can they carry that momentum over into the T side?
That is definitely going to be the question. In terms of having all of the tools at your disposal on the CT side, Manchester Hive had it about as easily as they could ask for. They had all of the money for the majority of their half and all of the weapons and utility you could want to work with. So in terms of a test of their CT skill, well, that was perhaps one of the more easier skill checks to get past. But now you have to switch to the more difficult side of the map where the initiative is on you. You are responsible for making these plays against a back 6 squad who we know have got some hot aimers.
That is the question as back six. They're just going to be playing it ever so slowly. We saw that, you know, they had some success playing slowly only over on the T side. Let's see if that happens now as Party does get caught with the opening headshot. Seabass gets the trade. Devo takes down Trill as he's just trying to jiggle peek here to allow his teammate to go for the plant, but it looks like the bomb is down now. Now he can reposition and refocus his fire, but Nico takes down Kavona. Chris getting caught by Consor. The final player is going to be moving back as Nico is going to be absolutely lit up. Seabass gets taken out, and Devo down he goes. There it is, back six. We said they have the good momentum after winning last round's pistol. The question is now, can they carry that momentum and regain their lead?
Indeed, we will have to see. It's a fairly similar pistol round strategy from Manchester Hive. They tried to copy what the back six did in terms of rushing onto a bomb site and overwhelming with pace, but unfortunately they could not hold on to the retake scenario. The USPs have the advantage at range in that situation, and they were able to claim victory as a result. It's a slightly different second round buy from the back six as well. They're going for a full investment here. They don't want to waste anything at all. They want the maximum chance of winning this round as possible, and the attack of the A side's already in round.
That flash was huge. It flashed 4 players from back 6, which allowed Manchester Hive to get Kavona up and aggressive early. Nico going to be taking some good shots over on towards Seabass. But a beautiful flick coming out from Kavona, lands the headshot. But I mean, back 6, when you're on the CT side, you have that firepower. You're set up in such a strong way. It's very easy for them to pick up the round. And now there's only 1 round between the teams, and back 6 have the momentum and the weaponry.
Indeed, they do, keeping these FAMASs on the board, allowing Nico to find some kills with the MP9. Those are the kind of objectives that back 6 is looking at. A loss in this round shouldn't be even on their radar, as Manchester Hive are going to be just desperate to get the bomb planted for some bonus cash, if nothing else. The Deagles always do have potential to deal damage, so you never should quite count them out as a dangerous prospect, but this Manchester Hive squad shouldn't be able to find much out of this round and should be knocked back to their full buy in the next.
Especially now that Parney, he drops down, he gives away the audio cue. Seabass going to be able to take down one, but Aspect and Nico popping off with the MP9s. Nico takes down 2. Aspect tries to finish the job, but never mind. Nico is just absolutely farming right now. Seabass, the final player left standing for Manchester Hive, and it's looking like it should go the way of back 6 to tie everything up. It's just a question of how many can Seabass take out on his way.
I think he's cognizant that there could be players in the back of B here, but he did just give a jump by the ladder, which I think communicated the sound info to Aspect of his location. That bullet will definitely reveal his position, and Nico in the close corner is able to get his 4th kill with the MP9. Stacks of bonus cash earned by him with the SMG there in round number 18. And as we head forward, that is going to be wonderful news for the CT economy, as he can build up some healthy cash reserves for himself. But the name of the game on Train is economic management for the CT side. All Manchester have to do is break this CT bank to start finding T-sided success, but the back 6 are looking like a strong defensive force so far.
Console deciding not to take the shot, holding that trigger discipline, knows it's a really tight angle. Kavona with a beautiful little headshot over on towards Nico. So now a player down from back 6. Manchester Hive, they've got themselves the utility, and the smoke's coming out to show it. But it looks like potentially a bit of a fake coming out here, as a lot of smoke's going down over towards A. It's set the whole back 6 squad over there to try and reposition, leaving Aspect as the solo player over on B. Chris starts to open up, but the Molotov does land down. It's going to do a decent amount of damage now as Aspect trying to get over on towards that bomb train. He heard the player next to him, but that AK is just too powerful. Down he goes. Chris going to be able to connect, but Gonzo with the headshot on towards Kavona, quickly traded out. There's now only 2 players left standing here. 4 back 6 as Trill takes down Chris. It's a 2 versus 3. The bomb is down for Hive, and now is the chance to start stretching out the lead for them.
Trying to creep forward. It looks like the CTs want to commit to this one, but they are indeed running out of time. Devadusol takes down Trill, and that should be the retake attempt all but over. Pinhead Larry, he's going to be lucky to get away with his life in this scenario, but it looks like as the T's back away to save their rifles, he may just escape from this one. Could be a late round engagement with Devo Dusol as he looks to take that rifle to the backline, especially since Devo Dusol heard him pick up the AWP, but but Pinhead Larry is going to be able to save that sniper for the CT squad. He's got enough cash to buy himself a weapon as well, so it is going to be a full gun round coming out from the back six, but one more round victory on this T side for Manchester Hive. They're going to have devastated that CT economy and really opened the door for a streak of rounds to go the way of the T squad.
Well, the CTs, they have themselves something to work with for the time being, so it's just a case of trying to clutch back this round, because it will be so hard otherwise. As Pinhead Larry gets the opening kill, Party trades it out, Trill takes down another as Devo connected with the headshot. It seems like these players are traded 1-for-1 right now until Pinhead Larry gets the 3K, as now Seabass, the final player left up for Manchester Hive. It's 10-9. It's looking like it could end up being 10-10 very quickly, as the damage will land over towards Seabass. He's at least farming something on towards these players, as now it's just a case of back six using that utility to do as much damage on him as possible before he really makes the peak, but never mind, because it's going to be the guns that connect, taking him down to 64 HP. It's just a matter of trying to take these aim battles and get at least 1 or 2 kills on the way out.
Indeed, bombs on top of the train as well, so really there was very little chance he was going to be able to claim a victory in that last round. But Manchester Hive seemingly going for the opposite strategy that the back six were on their T side. They were playing slightly more passively, taking a long time to get in towards the bomb sites and ultimately being taken down by the aggression of Manchester Hive's CT squads, whereas Manchester Hive are trying to rush into the bomb sites here and being taken down by back six and their crisp aim from more passive defensive positions. We need a little bit more of a middle ground from the T's, I think, in terms of a utility-based aggressive play style, but in terms of this round in number 21, there's a single AK and there's a single Galil. They're going to try and take everything they can down the B bomb site, as there are normally less players defending this site in the early round, as you call in the retaking CT defenders. But Aspect should be on for a hefty multi-kill here.
We will have to see, because it actually looks like Manchester Hive, they're going to be going all the way over to the top side, as now Smokes will be coming out. Consor will be looking for this, but if these players peak as a team, it's going to make things a whole lot harder. He does take down Chris, but it's also going to make it harder to take down a second. Aspect lands the headshot as he does get traded out by Parney. Consor the only one on the site right now, as the rest of the team do back in for the support. The plant bonus will be coming out as Trill takes down Kavona, followed by Parney. Devil, the final player left up, and unfortunately, the Deagle spam not working out, as now it's going to be 11-10. This is turning out to be a very close game, as we kind of expected coming into it, looking at the fact that both teams have very similar records in the Varsity League. The question is, who's going to be able to take the win and kind of confirm themselves as the stronger squad?
Well, Train obviously is one of the more CT-sided maps in the pool, and something that's really helping out the back six at the moment is the fact that they were able to get off to that early 4-round win streak at the start of their T half. Manchester Hive never took the advantage of that weakened CT economy at the start of this half, and now the back six are quickly going from strength to strength in their defenses. Kawona gets a great entry, but Trill gets it straight back on the A-bomb site, bringing it into a 4v4 and keeping it messy for the T side. They're smoked off and sort of trapped in the back of B at the moment. Manchester Hive not really committing to either bomb site just yet.
Feels like Hive are playing this very strategically, constantly being aware of their teammates' positions, playing for trades, knowing when another squad is going to push. As Chris, now he does throw out the flashbang, will be going for the peak. Trill's giving his position away as he tries to land some shots through the smoke. Molotov comes out from E-Box. They know that Chris is going to be there somewhere. Tries to land the shots, but never mind, because Trill goes down. But Chris is going to be low in return, so Nico and Aspect going to be looking to try and finish the job that Trill started. They will succeed as down goes Chris. Consor holding the backside just in case any more push out through Pop Dog, but it's Ivy they have to be careful for. As Seabass comes around, connects onto the headshot with Nico going down. Consor getting the trade. Now it's down to a 2v2, and I gotta say the firepower is in favor of back six. The question is, how powerful can that be when you don't have the info of the enemies and their positions, because it is just so hard if you miss that first shot by enemy catching you by surprise to actually regain that composure and pick up the kill off of it.
Oh, Parney, his feet are visible from this angle. He decides to peek into the AUG and then into the AWP as well. It's really messy on the bomb train, but time's running out for the back six. They want to win this round. First Silk secured by the AK, and that leaves Devo Dusol 1-on-2 against the encroaching CT. Bomb being tapped. First player sought and found perhaps as the second is through the smoke. Manchester Hive hit the stabilizers at a crucial point in the game. They tie it up at 11-11, but they haven't quite crippled the CT economy. 3 players can still buy up comfortably, so they will choose to invest. Interestingly, though, Konzor, he's going to be picking up the glass cannon AWP heading into this one. This is now Manchester Hive's opportunity to take economic control of this map.
Felt for a second like Devo hesitated. He killed one player on the very edge of the smoke, maybe thinking, hey, I just killed the diffuser, I'm good now. And then he realized, wait, there could be a second. He manages to take him down. But it's 11-11, and this is not ideal for either team, especially for Manchester Hive, as they do lose Konzor to the AWP, as it looks like they're setting up for a bit of a B push, as Aspect with only the P250 playing super aggressive on towards this angle. Spoke about the glass cannon. You have to hit your shots for it, as Aspect will be able to take down one. Now at least he's got himself an AK, but Trill takes down another. And it's looking like back six, even though they started this round at a bit of a deficit. Now is their opportunity to make something big happen. Pinhead Larry connects on towards Party as Devo's the last player up. And there it is, back six. They should be able to get the defuse. And now, after a very rough start to the round in terms of their economy, they're going to be looking a lot better with their full team left standing, all with weapons. Now it's just a case of getting yourself some utility and some armor in the case of Konzor.
Perfect round for the back six and a nightmarish round for the Manchester Hive squad. They receive a serious economic beating off the back of that one. I think the largest amount of cash reserves at the end of that round totaled something like $300 on one player. They have to take a Deagle round now, and that allows the lead potentially to stretch from the back six. Maybe more importantly, it gives them a round where they have to face less pressure in fragging terms so that they can keep these players alive and keep their economy preserved.
Pinhead Larry, opening kill on towards Kavona as he tries to go for a second. Chris going to be able to return the fire. Nice little one tap on towards him. Takes down Larry. Down to a 4v4, but the Deagles, as strong as they can be, are they any match for an AWP and a bunch of ARs? As Trill looks to try and find one more, it's going to be Konzor. Finishes the job on towards Chris. Nico peeks out, but Trill picking up another kill in return. 2 players left standing for Hive. I gotta say, this game is looking closer than I think a lot of us expected it to be now, because, I mean, usually we see a lot of teams take that lead, especially in the early game. It felt like, you know, one team was just going to absolutely tear away. But now, just seeing how evenly matched these teams are, it really shows just how strong a lot of the squads in the Varsity League are.
Indeed, and it shows you the level of mental fortitude that they have as well to be able to come back from situations where, you know, the back six, Manchester Hive were streaking 8 rounds consecutively in that first half, but it hasn't deterred them. They've kept that mental game strong and now have found themselves in a leading position in this best of one and could potentially continue to dominate this map of Train with another round victory. A second player lost is costly. At this late stage in the game, every little economic advantage that you can farm as the CT side, you want to try and get that done. Parney, now in a 1-on-2 scenario, has the chance to clutch out this round. He even has the angle. That was far too close for comfort. Aspect narrowly clutches that one out for the back six, but Parney was given far too much room to maneuver there.
So back six, they take that lead just a little more as we see the timeout come out. And it's insane to see just how strong some of these teams are playing. You know, Konzor with a 1.3 KD, Parney with a 1.33. It shows just how closely matched a lot of these squads are. And I think that's something we have to emphasize just so much here. The question is now, how can Manchester Hive use this timeout to their advantage to kind of talk about what they're doing wrong, identify any possible misplays, and start adjusting them accordingly?
There is certainly not much time left in the game to try and manage those mistakes. Realistically speaking, they have this round to work with. Maybe they have one more full gun round if they lose this one, but it is certainly the last chance saloon for them. But conversely, if they can just break that CT economy at such a late stage in the game, there would definitely be a potential route back into overtime, if not victory, for this Manchester Hive squad. But you have to play round 25 here absolutely perfectly. You cannot afford to let it slip past you, and a quick entry onto Pinhead Larry, who was overextending slightly in Pop Dog there, playing so aggressively towards the ladder, is a perfect opportunity for the Hive to start making moves in a vital round.
Really nice flashbang coming out there from Devo, but instead Hive deciding not to push onto it right away, just kind of throwing a bit of utility to catch the CTs off guard. They know if they expend it all at once, the CTs are going to be like, well, we know what side it is, and immediately start rotating over. And we see Aspect do this pretty much every round now. I absolutely love it. He knows that, you know, Manchester Hive, they're going to throw smoke in. It's just a case of throwing that Molotov in slightly before to catch off any pushing players. But Kavona, out he comes with the opening kill on towards Trill. Consor trades it out on towards Seabass as Nico takes down Party. Devo takes down Nico as Consor getting eliminated as well. Aspect, the final player standing. He's on full HP, which can't be said for two of the players from Manchester Hive. So if he's able to take down Kavona and Devo with just a couple bullets, he might be able to clean it up. But it looks like Aspect right now, he wants to save those weapons. He wants to make sure his team have something to work with when the game is just so close right now.
Absolutely, and this is what I was talking about in that last round, about not wanting to lose too many players and make those economic sacrifices, because you absolutely are going to feel the punishment of that in the latter stages of the game. This next one is going to be slightly ropey for the back six, economically speaking. Consor should be able to afford an investment, although I'm not sure he'll be able to get a full complement of utility alongside an AWP that he's been finding a lot of success with. He won't even be able to find armor alongside an AWP if he wants one. And meanwhile, the rest of the team, their cash is actually kind of ruined. Trill, Pinhead, Larry, and Nico cannot afford rifles and armor, so they make an incredibly risky decision at a very late stage in the game. They dump all of their cash into this round to go for the forced buy scenario, but if they lose this one, it'll be 13-13. They will have to eco then, which should theoretically be 14 rounds to Manchester Hive, and in their next full gun round, they'd be fighting to deny map point.
Ooh, it's going to be the Deagle that takes down the AWP. It's sad to see if you're the one who just invested in an AWP, but beautiful if you are that Deagle player. Consor and Aspect, the two players that have themselves some weapons for the back six side, as now it's looking like Hive getting ready to make a bit of an execute here. They've identified the eco for back six as that Deagle kill came out, but here it is. The AWP ringing out as well as Parney takes down one. Consor looking to try and get the trade as Manchester Hive, they're playing this really slowly right now. They're hoping that back six burn through that utility as soon as possible, as now it looks like the rotate will be coming out over towards B. It's just a question of whether back six are able to identify Manchester Hive using the same strategy that they used on Hive on them.
Well, Aspect is the only man on this B side, but he has a Molotov available. He can delay this push if he puts that molly in the right space. They're going to go straight through the flames, but he does manage to find a kill off the back of that utility placement. Has to go through smoke, but can't quite hit it, and the Hive still have to get onto the site and plant. Now they're committing to it, but the retake is well on the way.
Smokes are down as Chris going to be able to connect on towards Larry. Nico getting in a super aggressive position over the top. Will spot out Seabass, but the headshot gets returned. Down goes Nico as two players left up here. 4 back 6. Aspect going to be getting more and more aggressive, but he just doesn't have the info on where all these players are, and I'm sure he's not going to be expecting Chris to be inside the smoke as the no-scope lands. Down goes Aspect. Consor, the final player remaining. He is making a run now, trying to save himself that AWP, because these rounds are just so close. You do not want to give anything, especially when you know you're in a situation where it's going to be so hard to secure 3 kills and the round for your team. The party, he's giving chase. It doesn't matter. Down goes Consor. It's 13-13, and I gotta say, it's looking like overtime is becoming more and more likely in this scenario.
It definitely is a tantalizing prospect here. Manchester Hive, I think if they wait a couple of seconds there, they could actually have punished Consor after the bomb explosion, and he wouldn't have got any loss bonus either, which would have really been a further nail in the coffin at that point. But just removing the AWP is enough to basically deny the back six any kind of weaponry here in a vital round number 27. It's going to allow the Manchester Hive squad to take the lead on this T side, which is not something I think the back six were anticipating after they did start to have a strong showing in this second half. But they made some questionable decisions in the late round scenarios, perhaps where they were overconfident. They let rounds slip through their fingers, and now the Manchester Hive have a very real opportunity to take the lead on train and close it out in regulation. They're going to be, you have to imagine, 14-13 up after this one, looking for map point with the next full gun.
A pistol rush coming out. I respect it here from back six. They're trying to pick up at least something as Chris will be going down, but it's just a shooting range right now for Parnies. He's going to be picking up some big kills. Devo getting ready to drop down, has an idea that Aspect's down here. Somewhere down he goes. There it is. Aspect's out. 14 rounds to Hive. Back six, they need to use this economy wisely, because if they lose just one more round, then the best they can do is take it to overtime, and lose two, especially when you've just invested all your economy. That's the game for Manchester Hive, so it is going to be so tough right now for back six.
There's barely any utility for back six as well, and it looks like the Hive want to rush into this A-bomb site.
Gonna be moving in. Devo gets the opening headshot. Larry takes down one, followed by a second. Trill landing on towards Chris now. We'll be able to take him down in return. Seabaz takes down Konzor with their headshot, as now it's a 2 versus 3. Manchester Hive, they need to secure this round, otherwise their economy is going to be rough going into that final round. But the problem is, however, back six, they have the player advantage, they have the positions, and they have everything to lose. So they are not going to give anything away for free. As Party goes down, it's all on Seabass to secure this for Hive. If he doesn't, then back six have every opportunity of making a comeback and securing the game, as Aspect just going to be playing Ivy so slowly. Pinhead Larry, he looks away at the worst possible time, as Seabass is going to be sneaking out now over on towards Aspect. But you can see Seabass, he's panicking, he's checking every possible angle. He takes down Aspect, but now all the attention from back six is going to be focused on towards him. This is it. Back six, they have to secure this round to stay in the running seriously, because otherwise they are just going to be so limited in terms of their utility, in terms of their equipment. Next game, as the Molotov comes out, is going to deny the push from coming out for Trill. So now it's down to Pinhead Larry for the time being, but he connects with the spray. Down goes Seabass. It's 14-14, and things are looking so tight, especially going into our 29th round. It could go either way at this point.
Manchester Hive, they fall foul to a very common mistake for in-game leaders in CSGO. You enter a very important round, a round perhaps that could begin the process of you ending a map by virtue of destroying their economy. So you decide to rush at the worst possible time. The idea is there. It's a high-pressure situation. Let's catch our opponents off guard and try and use shock and awe to claim victory. But time and time again, I see these late rush calls in vital Counter-Strike rounds, and time again, I see the CTs beat them back with just the easiest of setups. It doesn't work out for Manchester Hive, and they may have hampered their own chances at victory here. Thankfully, they find an early kill, and that should be a route into the B bomb site. But look at where the bomb is. It's all the way back in T's spawn. There's no way that they can capitalize on the advantage of an early kill here now, as every single CT has rotated back in. Their best hope is to sell a fake on this B bomb site.
We will have to see how they do it, because they don't really have any players playing entry towards A. Kavona going to be getting aggressive now, but it looks like back six, they've identified the possibility, knowing that there could be players from Manchester Hive lurking over towards A site, as they're going to be looking over towards Kavona's location. They don't know the specifics of exactly where he is. Maybe expecting him to come out through Ivy instead. So Kavona taking a bit of an off angle here, knowing that there could be players hiding all around. Shifting ever so carefully, but there it is. Trill peeks out, will be able to connect on towards it. Now, the ties have turned from Manchester Hive getting the opening kill over on towards back six. Now they're down to a 4 versus 4, making a 4v3 as Trill lands the headshot on towards Devo. Chris is on towards the bomb train. He's trying to get the plan plant, as now the bomb is down. Barney goes down as well. Console looking to take down another. Chris is eliminated. Final player left up. It's going to be Seabass. He's in a 1 versus 4, and he knows he can't concede this now. He has to at least play for a kill, but it doesn't matter because Console's holding the angle, lands the headshot. Back 6 win the round, and now it's all or nothing for Manchester Hive. Their economy is next to non-existent. They have to pull out something huge here to take it into overtime.
AKs are out for the Ts. There's not much utility for them to work with, but their one saving grace, perhaps, is that the CT squad cannot afford an AWP, so that rush potential might still be available, but with the lack of utility, the aim for Manchester Hive has to be perfect. After coming back into this series, potentially into a position where they could have claimed victory in a map, they don't want to let it all fall apart by losing due to a rush decision in the late game.
I gotta say, back 6, it seems like they're playing very aggressive now, and we need to hope that they don't make the same mistake that Manchester Hive did earlier. It's Pinhead Larry. He's playing very, very aggressive here. Needs to be careful not to get caught as the flashbang does come out. Kavona going to be looking to try to go for the peak, but not wanting to overextend too far. Pinhead Larry in a very, very sketchy position here, trying to hide down low. Kavona getting ready to make the peak. Larry not wanting to overextend. It seems like back 6, they were about to start getting aggressive, but realized, hey, we need to slow down a little here. Let's play this as a team. It's a high-pressure situation. Gotta slow it down and use our CT side positions to our advantage. So now it looks like Manchester Hive, they are going to be making a bit of a rotate towards A site, sending Devo and Parney back to support Kavona. They know there's going to be a play behind the wall as the flashbang comes down. Larry backs off. He goes for the spray on towards 1, but the headshot lands on towards him. Trill watching over towards Pop Dog. He can't quite land it, but he does now. Run towards Party. Chris goes down as well. Trill's eliminated. It's a 3 versus 3, making a 3v2 as Nico going to be able to land some huge shots on towards Seabass. Console lands the headshot, and there it is. Kavona's out. Back 6 win the round and win the game for our final game of the split.
Wow, that was absolutely incredible work from the back 6 squad to be able to survive against that Manchester Hive comeback, especially in that last round of regulation time. Manchester Hive played it perfectly. They used all of that CT utility before the execution, and it looked like they were in a perfect position to push in. But then Trill stood up when his team needed him, got that vital double kill, and found the kills that were needed for the rest of that CT squad to actuate the defense. A very close match on Train, but congratulations to the back 6 for picking up the win.
Very, very impressive indeed, I have to say. An absolutely huge game coming out from both sides. It felt at the beginning that it was just going to be kind of a steamroll victory. One team takes the lead, but after that initial 3 or 4 round win, you know, we saw the T's make a bit of a comeback, and it was just so huge, and ended up the teams were fighting for every possible round, and I genuinely thought for a second that it could have gone into overtime.
It really could have gone into overtime as well. Unfortunately for the Manchester Hive squad, that one tactical call to rush into the A-bomb site was the wrong one. Unfortunately, it does tend to happen. You can make wrong calls at times, and that's unfortunately just what happened to Manchester Hive. Wrong call at the wrong time, and that ultimately allowed back 6 to capitalize on their CT side and claim what was a very narrow victory when all is said and done.
Very narrow indeed. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Varsity League. Starting from next week, the Varsity playoffs will be taking place. The top 8 teams from the league, and as well, the bottom 4 teams are going to be heading over into the spring prize playoffs as well. So before we head off, I just want to give a huge shout out to Logitech G, the world's best-selling gaming gear, and Unite students, amazing student accommodation all over the UK for supporting this event. It would not be possible without them. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us tonight. I will see you guys next time.